Now these verses right here are very damning to the sluggard. It says this. This is Solomon speaking. He said, I went past the field of a sluggard, past the vineyard of someone who has no sense. So in other words, Solomon said one day, you know what, let me take my chariot. I know this guy's a lazy person. Let's go and see what he's up to. He has no sense. Let's see what's going on. He says this. Thorns had come up everywhere. The ground was covered with weeds, and the stone wall was in ruins. In other words, when he finally got to the house, it looked like trash.
Hey, but I'ma preach the word and none of that hate gon' work. Hey, hold up. Now I don't know what you heard, but don't believe anyone that can't show you the word.
Proverbs 24. We're continuing through the book of Proverbs, getting more understanding, more wisdom. It says this in verse 1. Do not envy the wicked, nor desire their company, for their hearts plot violence and their lips talk about making trouble. So don't get jealous of the wicked. If you see the wicked, don't be like, man, I wish I could be like them or be with them. It says, and do not desire their company. So I'm be like, oh, I just want to hang out with them and all that. Why? For their hearts plot violence. They're always thinking about, something violent. They want to beat somebody up. They want to jump somebody. And their lips talk about making trouble, right? That's all they talk about, making trouble. They're trying to, do violence or get themselves, trying to rob or steal or commit lewd acts. They're going to get their lips talk about making trouble. So don't desire that company, because eventually, as we kept reading in the book of Proverbs, their issues are going to jump on you. So, all right, verse 3. By wisdom, a house is built, and through understanding, it is established. All right. So a house, a true house. We're not talking about a physical house. We're talking about a house that God is in there, the presence of God. There's peace. That house is established. Is by wisdom, a house is built. It has wisdom in it. If a house is chaotic and everybody's going about their own way, doing foolish stuff, there is no wisdom in the house. By wisdom, a house is built, and through understanding, it is established. That, in other words, that house is not going to be moved. Through knowledge, its rooms are filled with rare and beautiful treasures. Wow. So the rooms in that house are filled with rare and beautiful treasures. It's not talking about rubies and gemstones. It's talking about when somebody who's not wise sees it, they're like, wow, this place, they got it together. There's peace in here. There's unity. There's love. That's rare. You'll be surprised how many people just want peace in their house or unity or love. And when they see that, they're like, wow, you got it all over the house. But that thing is built by wisdom. If you have no wisdom, it's not going to be built. So, you can't say, oh, I believe I'm a Christian. That's not wisdom. I mean, yeah, that's salvation, but you need to get wisdom. You got to add wisdom to your faith. Like the Bible says, I think in 2 Peter, that it says, add unto your faith knowledge. You got to add to your faith. But a lot of Christians think, oh, I'm a Christian. My house is going to be at peace. Yet they have no knowledge. They're doing whatever. And that's why we're going through this book. So you guys could have wisdom. So when you build your house, you will at least have that understanding and where to go. 5, the wise prevail through great power, and those who have knowledge muster their strength. I click on 5. Let me go to the ESV. Clicked on it. Is a wife. Okay, let's just stick with it. The wise prevail through great power. So if somebody's wise, they'll have great power. What does that mean? They're going to have an army and all that? No, with their wisdom. There's power in wisdom, Like the old saying goes, knowledge is power. It's true. This verse basically says that knowledge is power. And you'll have strength. You'll have great power. And those who have knowledge muster their strength. So if you have knowledge, if you know how to maneuver, you'll be strengthened in your knowledge. Surely you need guidance to wage a war, and victory is won through many advisors. Again, one theme throughout the book of Proverbs is that you need people around you to give you counsel. This is not a one-man show. You should be ready to listen. You should be ready to have people around you who are giving you wise counsel, and you got to be ready to accept it. And surely you need guidance to wage war, and victory is won by many. If you want to be victorious in life, have many people input into your life. Don't be a one-man band or the Lone Ranger. No, that's not the mentality of a wise person. Verse 7. Wisdom is too high for fools. In the assembly at the gate, they must not open their mouths. Wisdom, look, in other words, what this verse is saying is that when a fool hears wisdom, it turns them off. They're like, oh, no, it's too much. And then, okay, when they assemble at the gate, okay, in those times, the elders and the judges used to assemble at the gate, and they used to discuss things that had to do with the community, that had to do with, situations that were happening. When a fool comes in the assembly at the gate, they must not open their mouths. They're quiet. They don't say nothing. Can you click on that? If it comes up in that, huh? Okay. Hold on. Let me see. So it reminds me of some foolish people that I know. They'll ramble on about sports, about the Yankees, the Buccaneers, and everything. They'll gossip about other people. But then when you start talking about life, about marriage, about children, about finances, they got their mouths closed. They got no opinion. Oh, they'll know Jeter's birth date, where he was born. They'll know the time he was born. But when it comes to how to deal with your finances or deal with your children, they're quiet. Why? Because wisdom is too high for them. It's too much. They'll just talk about the nonsense. But when they go at the gate where the wise people are, the elders, and the elders are speaking wise things, their mouths is quiet. Verse 8, scroll up. Whoever plots evil will be known as a schemer. I click 9. Hopefully it's still down. Okay, in verse 9 says that in the KJV, in verse 9 says that the thought of foolishness is sin, and people detest a mocker. I like the King James Version, but let me read from verse 8. Whoever plots evil will be known as a schemer. I mean, that's common sense. That's the definition of a schemer. You're plotting evil. The schemes, or why I just said that, the thought of foolishness is sin, and people detest a mocker. Right? In the King James, it says that the thought of foolishness is sin. Right? If you're even thinking about foolishness, it's a sin. We got to get that mentality in our mind. Even if you think, it reminds me of that verse where I'm just using an example. The woman, it says a foolish woman is loud, simple, and knows nothing. If a foolish woman says, and she thinks, I'm going to get loud, guess what? It's sin. Now, some people might be like, oh, well, sin, foolishness is not a big deal. What's the big deal? It's not like I murdered somebody. But let's click on Mark 7. This is what Jesus said in Mark 7, verse 20. He continued. Jesus continued. What comes out of a man, that is what defiles him. For from within the hearts of men come evil thoughts, sexual immorality, theft, murder, adultery, greed, wickedness, deceit, debauchery, envy, slander, arrogance, and foolishness. All these evils come from within, and these are what defiles a man. So you see, foolishness, according to Jesus, is evil. So even if the thought of foolishness is sin. So we got to get this mentality, if we're going to be wise, that if we're even thinking about foolishness, it's evil. It is defiling. I mean, if you go through it, that's even worse. But even thinking about it is bad enough. Because out of the hearts of men come all these, what Jesus called evil. So don't minimize foolishness. And you know what? I'm just going to hang out with these wicked people. I know the Bible says, Proverbs says not to do it, but guess what? That's an evil thought. And you've defiled yourself. All right, go back to 24. Proverbs 24. Verse 10. If you falter in a time of trouble, how small is your strength? All right, look, well, in life, there's always going to be trouble. There's always going to be situations where you're going to be in a predicament. But a lot of people just give up. Rather than say, you know what, this is a time of trouble, I'm going to go through it, I'm going to fight through it, they just give up. Solomon said, how small is your strength? They had no strength. They might have put on a persona like, yeah, I'm going to fight. But when the trouble really came, they disappeared. How small is your strength if you falter in the time of trouble? Verse 11, rescue those being led away to death. Hold back those staggering toward slaughter. Let me continue reading. If you say, but we knew nothing about this, does not he who weighs the heart perceive it? Does not he who guards your life know it? Will he not repay everyone according to what they have done? Look, if you see somebody being led away to death as a believer, you got to speak up. It says to rescue those who are being led to death. You know, I think of this nation, those abortion clinics. You know, as believers, there should be at least a few people out there trying to rescue those people. It's disgraceful, and it just shows that the church does not follow the Bible. Because if they did, there should be at least a few people out there protesting, trying to rescue those people that are being led away to death. Hold back those staggering towards slaughter. They're not doing it. You know, this right here is a very pro-life verse. Not even pro-life, militant pro-life. Like not, oh, I'm pro-life, I'll just vote. No, you got to do some action and be like, you know what, I'm going to fight against this. Because this is why in verse 12, this is what God says. If you say, but we knew nothing about this. In other words, oh, I heard there was a Planned Parenthood down the block, but I didn't know nothing about this. You know, I didn't think the need to rescue those being led away to slaughter or hold back those staggered toward them. But we knew nothing about it. This is what God's going to say. Does not he who waits the heart perceive it? God knows your heart. God knew that you knew. Does not he who guards your life know it? No, God's guarding your life. Don't you think he knows that you know and yet you're doing nothing about it? And this is a threat from God. Will he not repay everyone according to what they have done? So you're going to be held accountable for your silence. If you see somebody staggering to death, an innocent person and you're just, well, I'm just going to stay out of it. I don't want to get involved. You know, I don't want to lose my job. I don't want to go to jail. No, God will repay everyone for what they had, according to what they have done. So this is very serious, especially in this nation when it comes to abortion, that we don't just overlook it and be like, whatever. It's their life. They do whatever. I'll just vote, or I'll just give $10 to a pro-life organization. No, you got to rescue those that are being led to slaughter. Verse 15, eat honey, my son, for it is good. Honey from the comb is sweet to your taste. Okay, he's telling him to eat honey, but really what he's going to do is talk about wisdom in the next verse. He's using this as an argument for wisdom. Know also that wisdom is like honey for you. You know, back in those days, you know, they didn't have high corn fructose syrup products out there. Honey was like one of the sweetest things, maybe pomegranates, you know. So when they ate it, it was like, wow, you know. But here, Solomon is saying, know that wisdom is like honey to you. It should, if you're a wise person, wisdom should be like, wow, this is good. I like this. It's not, oh, I don't want to hear it. It's too painful. It goes against what I am. No. Know also that wisdom is like honey for you. If you find it, there is a future hope for you, and your hope will not be cut off. See, if you have wisdom, there's hope for you. You know, there's hope for your future. There's hope for your marriage, your children, your life expectancy. There's hope. Anything that you're expecting in life, you're going to have it. But you got to find wisdom first. You know, there will be hope in that. But if you reject wisdom, there is no hope for you. You might plan it, but it's going to be torn down. All right, verse 15. Do not lurk like a thief near the house of the righteous. Do not plunder their dwelling. All right, so don't be a thief against somebody who's a good man. Don't rob him. Don't be like, oh, you know, he leaves his stuff out in the patio. I'm gonna take a few things. Do not lurk like a thief near the house of the righteous, nor plunder their dwelling. Especially the righteous, those that are believers, that have wisdom, that are doing the right thing. This is why. For though the righteous fall 7 times, they rise again. But the wicked stumble when calamity strikes. I got to address this verse because there was a song back in like the early 2000s by Donnie McClurkin called We fall down, but we get up. For a saint is just a sinner who falls down and got up. This is what this verse is based, that song was based on. What he's saying has nothing to do with this verse. It's not talking about when a righteous man falls into sin. It's talking about when it says he's righteous. And it says when a righteous man falls into wickedness, he falls, meaning there's things in life that happens, and that's the true fact. There might be a flood. I know of a righteous woman, Zena, her house got flooded. She fell, but you know what? She got back up again. That's what it's talking about. It's not talking about you're sinning, the righteous sin, and they're going to keep coming back up. No, if the righteous falls, they lose a job. They, like Job, lose their health. For the righteous fall 7 times, they rise again. They get back up. Yes, that part. Not saying the sinner who falls down. But the wicked, when they stumble when calamity strikes. So when the flood comes in their house, like Jesus talked about the man who built his house on a foolish, on sand. When the storms come, his house is destroyed and he's not going to get up. But the righteous, yes, they'll have issues in life. Things might happen like Job, a flood, who knows, they might lose a job, but they'll get back up. And that's a promise. All right, 17. Now listen to this. Do not gloat when your enemy falls. When they stumble, do not let your heart rejoice. Or the Lord will see and disapprove and turn his wrath away from them. So in other words, look, if you have an enemy, we have enemies in the world. When they start falling, don't gloat. Because if you start gloating, see, God had a plan for them to lose like $100,000, your enemy. But because you gloated, they're only going to lose $10,000. So if you want God to really chastise them, to revenge, that the Bible says, vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. Don't think that, see, a lot of Christians have this notion that vengeance is, we shouldn't even ask vengeance. No, the Bible is clear. We should ask for vengeance, but we ask God to do it for us. But when you see your enemy falling, don't start getting excited saying, yes, yes. Because then God will say, you know what? I'm not going to punish them as much as I would have because you're gloating. So that, so anytime you see your enemy falling, don't say nothing or else God might stop the punishment that he's getting for what he did. 19. Do not fret because of evildoers or be envious of the wicked. So don't be anxious, because of evildoers or jealous of the wicked. This is a theme throughout the book of Proverbs. Why? For the evildoer has no hope. They have no future hope. They look successful now. They look great, in their Bentley, in their Teslas. They look all fine, but their future is over. They're either going to get murdered or they're going to be broke. I always think of these hip hop artists. They have their one song or a few songs, and they got these cars, these chains. They look all great, but keep going 10 years from now, they're broke. They're struggling. They're doped out. Some of them didn't even make it in 10 years. 5 years, they got murdered. So there is no hope for evildoers, and the lamp of the wicked will be snuffed out. God's going to snuff them out. We're all like lamps in the eyes of the Lord. God's going to take his fingers and go like this over their lamp and snuff it out. You don't want to be the wicked. Don't envy the wicked. Don't be like, wow, they're cool, they're famous, everybody loves. No, don't do that. Don't have that mentality, because this is their judgment in the end. 21. Scroll up, Josh. Fear the Lord and the king, my son, and do not join with the rebellious officials. All right? Let's be real. This verse could apply to all these January 6 people. It says, fear the Lord and the king, my son. So we got to fear God and whoever's ruling over us, whether it's a good person or a bad person. God didn't say fear the Lord and a good king. My son, and do not join with the rebellious official. If there's an anarchy or insurrection, we shouldn't be doing it. Even if it's just like, not an insurrection, but a way to tell the government officials that we oppose them. Don't do it. For those two will send sudden destruction on them. And that's what's happening to all these January 6 people getting locked up. They're getting destroyed. whether you like it or not. But the thing is, they didn't have wisdom. They just went into the Capitol, think it's the big party, because they saw all the looting happening in America. They say, oh, what's the big deal? We just broke a glass. We're just jumping up and down the Capitol. For those two will send sudden destruction on them, and who knows what calamity they can bring. God will bring God and the king will bring calamities on them. Some of them are going to spend 2 years in jail for just walking in the building. Others did it before they got away with it. But the thing is, if you had wisdom, you would be like, you know what? I don't agree with this, what the government's doing, but I'm not going to violate their laws. But there were a lot of foolish people and some even Christians who went in there and now they're locked up. Why? Because this verse warned you, don't fear the Lord and the king. He's the king. Whether you like it or not, he's the king. All right, 23. These are also sayings of the wise. To show partiality in judging is not good. Whoever says to the guilty, you are innocent, will be cursed by peoples and denounced by nations. Let me stop there. To show partiality in judging is not good. If you say to the guilty, you are innocent, what you did was wrong, or there's so much evidence against you, but you know what, you're innocent. If people do that, and this nation does it too, let me use political speech. What's her name? Like Hillary Clinton, she broke laws after laws. They let her slide. And you know what? What's going on around the world too? Whoever says to the guilty, you are innocent, will be cursed by peoples and denounced by nations. People see what's going on. People are not dumb. They see the partiality. They'll raid Trump's house, but they won't raid Hillary Clinton, and she did worse. People, righteous people who know right from wrong will denounce that. They'll be like, that's wrong. But it will go well with those who convict the guilty, and rich blessing will come up on them. So this nation is not going to be blessed because they don't convict the guilty. They persecute they show partiality. But those that do, God will bless them. There'll be a rich blessing. So that's what comes important, that we have judges that judge right, because it affects the blessing that God's going to give. 26. An honest answer is like a kiss on the lips. All right. It's, if somebody answers you honestly, if they tell you the truth, it's like a kiss in the lips. It's like, wow, thank you for just telling me the truth. There's some people that like to lie, or they don't want to, divulge it. So you got to investigate and keep talking and try to pull it out. It's very annoying and it's very laborious. But if somebody gives you an honest answer, if they tell you straight up, if you ask a question and they answered it, you appreciate it. You'll be like, thank you. 27. Now, this is very important, especially if you want to build a house. And I'm not talking about a physical house, but we could use this for your own house. It says this: put your outdoor work in order and get your fields ready. After that, build your house. Notice the steps you got to do. It says put your outdoor work in order. In other words, here is using an analogy of a big plot of land, and there's shrubs and weeds and everything. He's saying, look, put your outdoor work in order. Get your lawn mowed, get all the weeds out, and get your fields ready. Get it prepared. Lay down that foundation, and then after that, build your house. And now I'm gonna use it, when it comes to a spiritual house. A lot of people want to build a house, but they ain't putting no outdoor work. They got no finances. They're spiritually immature. Their wife is spiritually immature, but they want to build a house. No, these are the steps to build your house. You got to lay down the foundation. They say that the number one issue in a marriage is finances. If you put your outdoor work in order and got your fields ready, then you could be able to build your house. But a lot of people just jump and build in the house, and then it's a mess. So make sure you do the steps right. Make sure that you're right in order to build your house. All right, 28. Do not testify against your neighbor without cause. Would you use your lips to mislead? So in other words, look, if your neighbor, mind your business when it comes to your neighbor, unless he's doing something wrong, just stay out of his business. Do not testify against your neighbor without cause. If he's not doing nothing that's illegal, then there's no need for you to witness against them. Would you use your lips to mislead? In other words, not even worse, you're speaking lies about them. Do not say, I will do to them as they have done to me. I will pay them back for what they did. So in other words, the reason why you're testifying against them is because you want to exact vengeance on them. But don't do that, because that's, you're being deceitful in order to exact vengeance. We're supposed to let God take vengeance, not be deceitful so we could get another person in trouble. All right. Now, these verses right here are very damning to the sluggard. All right, it says this. This is Solomon speaking. He said, I went past the field of a sluggard, past the vineyard of someone who has no sense. So in other words, Solomon said one day, you know what? Let me take my chariot. I know this guy's a lazy person. Let's go and see what he's up to. Yeah, he has no sense. Let's see what's going on. He said this. Thorns had come up everywhere. The ground was covered with weeds, and the stone wall was in ruins. In other words, when he finally got to the house, it looked like trash. He was like, look at this. It's garbage. He said that the thorns had come up everywhere. Thorns are something that somebody's supposed to do maintenance on. You're supposed to maintain that. You're supposed to watch it. You know it's coming, and you're supposed to take care of it. But they didn't do it. So they were lazy in their maintenance. The ground was covered with weeds. In other words, again, it looks like trash. There's weeds all over. They had to pluck it out. But instead of plucking it out, they're like, I'm just too lazy. And the stone wall was in ruins. In other words, the stone walls was like the gates. Some houses have gates like those white, I guess it's like plastic gates. It's broken down. But this lazy person instead of saying, I got to fix this immediately. This is like an urgent need. They're too lazy to even fix that. Then this is what Solomon concluded. I applied my heart to what I observed, and I learned a lesson from what I saw. And this is what he concluded. A little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest, and poverty will come on you like a thief, and scarcity like an armed man. See, that's the problem with the sluggard. He's too busy. He's folding his hands. He's taking, I'm just going to take a little nap. I just need a break. A little sleep, a little slumber, a little. Guess what? Poverty will come on you like a thief. His house looked like trash because he kept sleeping. And scarcity like an armed man. And these verses also go to show that people will judge you by your appearance. Because Solomon said, I'm going to go by the house of the sluggard. He didn't, when he was going there, do you think he would have saw a clean lawn, the wall fixed? No, he knew this was going to happen. So people will judge you by your appearance. People will judge you by your house. People will judge you by your car. That's to come. We got to be people of wisdom and say, you know what? I got to excel. I got to make sure I don't look like a slob, because people are going to say a slob really is just another word for a sluggard. That's what a slob is. A slob is someone who just doesn't care, who doesn't put energy in. You don't want to be that, because Solomon might walk by you one day and say, oh, look at this guy. He didn't even know him. He just said, I think he's a sluggard, and this is the evidence. So make sure that you have that mentality in your life. I don't care if you have a job and you got a truck. Make sure you keep it right, keep it clean, because people are going to judge you. They're going to judge you. Oh, wow, this guy, he's very diligent. He's very cleansful. Always say, oh, this guy's a slob. He probably like that at home. So don't be like this guy. Don't be like this guy. So we'll end there. Anybody has a question, comment, concern?